Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. Sorry I'm a little late. Just had some go on just before the show here, but I'm here now. So hopefully, today is Tuesday, August the 12th, 2025. We're, of course, going to give people a chance to come in before we get started here. Hopefully, everybody's having a good week thus far. You all may have noticed as I've gone over the last couple of days here. There's a new, I guess, update coming out from YouTube tomorrow. AI ID verification, basically, where it seems like they may be trying to get people to basically put their photo IDs up. So now what I want to do too, because of this, because of some of the screwy things going on with YouTube, I have decided to focus a little bit more on my Rumble side. I'm still going to be doing stuff here, obviously, but I would like to start live streaming on Rumble as well. So if you guys don't have a if you guys don't have an account over there yet, if you guys can go over there, someone up and follow the Mikestand over there as well, that'd be appreciated. Also, as always, here, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream here, seeing we get some more friendly people to engage with, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here, as always, grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So let's see now. So with all that being said, I'm just gonna go check something real quick here for a moment. All right. So anyway, so we're coming up on 3 minutes from now, so I guess I'll talk about what's on tap for tonight. So I'm gonna go over like 3 articles from Me TV Tunes. One, learning a little bit more about Nibbles the Mouse from MGM cartoons and Tom and Jerry cartoons. Also, I'm going to talk a little bit about how some of Hanna-Barbera's adaptations of fairy tales. And then we're also going to be looking at also, I guess, an interview Chuck Jones did years ago talking about Fritz Frayling's musical influence on some of his cartoons. Well, let me just go check here one more time, then we might. And of course, we'll get caught up on last night's. SmackDown. Or not SmackDown, but Monday Night Raw, as well as look ahead to tonight's NXT. Also, we know that there'll probably be some interactions between NXT and TNA tonight, as of course Trick Williams from NXT will be defending the TNA World Title at this Friday's Emergence against Moose, as I pointed out last night. So, and then we'll wrap things up with this day in each history. So, with all that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started? Again, another friendly reminder, if you guys haven't already, if you guys can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. All right, so with that being said, let's get going here. We'll go with this first article. 8 cute little facts about Nibbles. The cutest little cartoon mouse. Article published August 6th, 2025, which was last Wednesday, so almost a full week ago, by MeTV Toon staff. There's little Nibbles right there. Touche, pussycat! All right, so Nibbles is such a cutie pie, but for a character who appears in 13 of the original theatrical Tom and Jerry shorts, we don't know a lot about the little guy. So we investigated the adorable little rodent and found that almost all his cuteness is a pretty special cartoon. All his cuteness is a pretty special cartoon character. Here's what we found. Nibbles, number one, Nibbles was originally named Tuffy. The mouse we now know as Nibbles first appeared in the Our Gang comics, which had a Tom and Jerry section in 1942. So that remember back in the golden age of comics, back in the 30s and 40s, comics were more anthologies at that point. And so usually you'd have like, I think even by 42 you still had like about 8 stories or so. Well, the action adventure comics had like about 8 or had 7 or 8 stories, while the humor comics may have had like 10 to 12, I guess. But anyways, but in the comic, his name was Tuffy, and he was Jerry's friend, not a little child. Hmm. Yeah. 2. Sometimes he's an orphan. In his first cartoons, The Milky Waif and The Little Orphan, Nibbles is an orphan left on Jerry's doorstep with a note that he's always hungry. His orphanage is called Bidawee Mouse House. Bidawee Mouse House, okay? Jerry is usually serving as his guardian or hosting him for a holiday. Yeah, I mean, that's throughout. Basically, in some form, he's usually his guardian in some form or capacity, not just as a not just as a as an orphan, but a relative, also as a student, in terms of how to be a musketeer, as it were. Touche, pussycat. Number 3. Sometimes he's Jerry's nephew. Um, Chapter 6, on Thanksgiving Day, my little nephew and I dressed up as pilgrims. Tom, of course. Now that little excerpt right there is from, I think, it was from Jerry's diary, I believe. End of the act. Sometimes he's Jerry's nephew. In Life with Tom, that's the one here. Jerry says Nibbles is his nephew, which is a weird change considering that the scene with Nibbles is a flashback to The Little Orphan, where Nibbles is not Jerry's nephew. Albeit he could have adopted him as a nephew. Huh. And here's a cartoon where yeah. Sometimes he's Jerry's friend's kid. In the Three Musketeer cartoons, these are the ones I refer to, where it says, "Touche, pussycat." Nibbles is sent by his father to live with Jerry and be trained in the art of mouseketeering. Number 4. Number 5. Nibbles was voiced by a little French girl. Actually, that's true, and to my knowledge, she's she's actually still alive, but very old. I think from what I heard, I think she's living up in Oregon right now, from what I've read on her. But um, for the Mouseketeer series, Hanna-Barbera found Francois Brune Cotin, a 5-year-old French girl, to voice Nibbles. In an interview with Noblemania, Brune Cotin um, recalled that she had to stand on a stool to reach the microphone. And she said, quote, "It was mainly a lot of fun. Hanging around the lot was a lot of fun. Missing school was fun." Of course, for most little kids, it's the case, right? Missing school. Yeah, I don't want to go to school today. I think I'll go voice Nibbles a mouse. Her friends must have been jealous, right? Uh, Number 6, Nibbles is an Oscar winner. So, what can we say? The Academy recognizes talent. Nibbles has appeared in 2 Academy Award winning cartoons, The Little Orphan and The Two Musketeers. Another cartoon starring Nibbles, Touche Pussycat, was also nominated. And I think there's the one Touche Pussycat right there. Nibbles was meant to be a foil to Tom and Jerry. There have been a lot of one-off characters in the Tom and Jerry universe, and besides Spike and Tyke, Nibbles is the only one who stuck around. Tom and Jerry are respectively cunning, vicious, and maniacal in their mutual animosity. Adding in a sweet and naive little baby mouse resets the flow of the fight. He forces Jerry to pause and defend Nibbles, and he's the only character in the entire cartoon um, series who ever tries to be nice to Tom. We remember, yeah, I don't know if you guys remember the episode where Nibbles tried, where Jerry basically was telling Nibbles to try to put the bell on the cat, but he actually got Tom to by being nice to him. Kind of a twist on the old fable of, you know, the the cat and the bell story. Even if Nibbles was meant to be a cutie, he definitely evolved over time to be as mischievous as Tom and Jerry. Touche, pussycat. Number 8. Nibbles always delivers the final blow. In every cartoon he is in, Nibbles is the one who ends the fight, particularly in the Mouseketeer series, where Tom is least expecting the Mouseketeer in training to have any combat skills. Yeah, I know that in the one I keep saying, touche, pussycat, there's the one case where I think he sticks where Nibble sticks his sword up, what, up Tom's, what. So, watch the Tom and Jerry show on MeTV Tunes, weekdays at 5 p.m. Eastern for Central to Pacific, Saturdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 Central, 1 Pacific, and Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 Central, 6 a.m. Pacific. All right, so there we go with that one. I do need to step away from the computer for a moment, so I'll be right back. But let me put some music on while I'm gone. Go to gear. and I'll be right back. Alright, so we're back now. Again, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Let me just go check something here before we continue, I'll continue on to the next story here. All right. So here's the next one we're going to do, of course. Hanna-Barbera cartoons based on fairy tales. Everyone is Little Red Riding Hood. Article published August 8th, 2025, which was last Friday by MeTV10 So here are some of the variations of Little Red Riding Hood right here. You got on the far left there, that looks like it's Peter Potamus, I believe. And then you got Oogie from Magilla Gorilla in the middle, and Huckleberry Hound. All right, so once upon a time, animators had come up with hundreds of cartoons every year to keep their shows rolling. But what happens when an animator runs out of ideas and needs a story for Huckleberry Hound or the Flintstones? They pull from the greatest collection of free intellectual property available, fairy tales. Parodying fairy tales helps fit a cartoon character like Yogi Bear into a story that the children of the day already recognized and now could enjoy even more with the addition of their favorite cartoon characters. Let's take a look at all the famous fairy tales that got turned into Hanna-Barbera cartoons. You'll be surprised at just how many cartoons did Little Red Riding Hood. The Princess and the Frog. More like the Princess and the Gorilla. In the episode Prince Charming, Magilla Gorilla tells Ogie reimagined fairy tales. Magilla's version has Princess Ogie giving every animal in the forest a kiss before she finally kisses Magilla, who turns into the prince. Of course, Magilla Gorilla, voiced by the late great Alan Melvin, who also, of course, for some of you may remember, was Sam the Butcher in Brady Bunch, and Ogie was voiced by the late great Gene Vanderpill, who, among her other Hanna-Barbera, probably her most famous one, of course. And it's kind of funny because she's a redheaded child here. Her probably her most famous voice role was as Wilma Flintstone in the Flintstones, as well as voicing Rosie the Robot in the Jetsons. Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Naturally, Hanna-Barbera version of Goldilocks takes place in the Hillbilly Bears. But this time, Goldilocks is a movie star named Goldie Looks, who gets a flat tire and invades the four bears' home. Of course, the Hillbilly Bears voiced Pa Bear, voiced by the late great Henry Cordone, or Pa Rug rather. Ma Rug, the Rug family. Ma Rug, voiced by the late great Gene Vanderpill. Flora Rug, voiced by the late great Janet Waldo. And I don't remember off the top of my head who the youngest Shag Rug was voiced by. Number 3, the Three Little Pigs. Yogi and Boo Boo get lost and stumble upon the Three Little Pigs, who are arguing about how their straw home won't last against the big bad wolf. They swindle Yogi and Boo Boo into taking the straw house, and then they do the same thing with the wood house. Eventually, they skip making the brick house and try taking Yogi and Boo Boo's cave. And look, all three pigs are the little white pigs. Snow White! And this is a Winnie the Witch cartoon. So, most fairy tales have a witch. So, Winsome Witch, or sometimes known as Winnie, has recreated a lot of fairy tales. In Prince Pup, she is hired by the Queen to deliver the poisoned apple to Snow White. Only she accidentally eats one too. Now, Winnie Witch, again, another one who was voiced by, she was actually voiced by Janet Waldo, I believe. Hansel and Gretel. Oh, we get Winnie Witch again here. Well, it's not quite a retelling, but it's close. When two kids have to show up to her house, claiming to be Hansel and Gretel, Winsome Witch goes out of her way to show them that she's a nice witch and gives them anything they want until they run off with her broom. Oh yeah, that's a nice twist on it. Aladdin, and there's Hokey Wolf right there. I believe Dawes Butler may have been the one who was doing Hokey Wolf. Many cartoons feature episodes surrounding genies, magic lamps, flying car. Yes, and even Hanna-Barbera had their own version of they kind of did a version of Genie kind of based on the 1960s live action one with Barbara Eden, just done in the early 70s there. In fact, Babu was also part of the All-Star Laugh Olympics. Um, Magic lamps and flying carpets, but Hokey Wolf found an actual magic lamp, which he used to swindle people in Aladdin's lamb chops. Touche Turtle and Dum Dum. Anyway, Touche Turtle was a turtle who dressed kind of like a musketeer, and Dum Dum was his dog buddy. It was his dog buddy basically, going around helping people out. Also has an Aladdin themed episode. Ali Blabber and the 40 Thieves. Jack and the Beanstalk. There's Hokey Wolf and his little buddy there. Dingaling. His little buddy Dingaling. Many Hanna-Barbera cartoons have a Jack and the Beanstalk episode, including Hokey Wolf, Peter Potamus, and Scooby and Scrappy Doo. Peter Potamus, of course, another one voiced by Dawes Butler, Scooby-Doo, and Scrappy-Doo voiced by Don Messick. Sometimes the characters take the place of Jack, as in Hokey Wolf's retelling. Other times they help Jack escape the giant. Number 8, Cinderella, another one where we get to see Winsome Witch right there. Three cartoons feature Cinderella stories. Winsome Witch, where Winsome Witch acts as the fairy godmother. The Flintstones also has an episode called Cinderella Stone, quote unquote, where Fred's fairy godmother transforms him into a distinguished gentleman for a fancy party. Also, Cinderella is one of the stories Ogie and McGilla recreate together from the McGilla Gorilla Show. Number 9, honorable mention, Robin Hood. Whether Robin Hood is a fairy tale or an urban legend is a debate for another day. We just wanted to show you Snagglepuss in his fun little Robin Hood outfit in Arrow era. Snagglepuss, part of the Yogi Bear show, of course voiced by the late great Dawes Butler as well. Number 10, Little Red Riding Hood. And there you see, that's actually Ricochet Rabbit. Ricochet Rabbit right there, and Droop Along. Almost every single Hanna-Barbera cartoon has a Little Red Riding Hood moment. Huckleberry Hound, Wally Gator, also voiced by, of course, a lot of the main, Hanna-Barbera characters, with the exception of a few notable exceptions, were voiced by Dawes Butler. Wally Gator, Winsome Witch, as we mentioned earlier, voiced by Janet Waldo. McGilla Gorilla, voiced by Alan Melvin. Touche Turtle and Dum Dum. Dum Dum, I think, actually was voiced by Henry Cordone, actually. And Ricochet Rabbit and Droop Along. All have episodes where the main characters help protect Little Red Riding Hood from the big bad wolf. So many Little Red Riding Hoods. Watch House of Hanna-Barbera on MeTV Tunes, weekdays at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 Central, 8 a.m. Pacific, Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 10 a.m. Pacific. Alrighty then. So we've got one more cartoon or one more article rather, go over. We're making good time here. Again, if you haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, with that being said, as we continue on here, let's get to this third and final article we're going to do tonight. Chuck Jones revealed Fritz Frayling's secret method behind his musical cartoons. Frayling was in tune with his cartoons. Now I got to remember too that the term cartoon was originally a portmanteau where you jam two words together. You know that the full version of the word was caricature tune, right? Like um, a character or drawing that was put to music. That article was done today by MeTV staff. So, the Looney Tunes library contains hundreds of classic cartoons, but some of the standouts are the musical cartoons. Those special shorts where the story follows along a classic song, um, animated to perfect timing. With every moment um, of the piece. In Mouse Mazurka, the mouse tosses a bottle of nitroglycerin perfectly as each violin string plucks. In Pigs in a Polka, the three little pigs build their house, and each step in the building process is a beat in Johann Brahms' Hungarian dances. Fritz Frayling directed these musical cartoons and many more. But how did he get so good at musical cartoons? According to Frayling's friend and colleague, Chuck Jones, um, Frayling was both a musician and an animator. In his memoir, Chuck-a-Muck, The Life and Times of an Animated Cartoonist, Jones described Frayling's secret sauce. Quote, Fritz timed his picture on musical bar sheets in the most beautiful tiny lettering style you ever saw. No one except Tex Avery had as perfect a sense of timing as did Fritz Frayling, and no one could pre-time picture with as absolute certainty as he could. Unquote. Now, also don't forget Fritz Frayling would also go on to form um, DePatie Frayling Enterprises with Dave DePatie. That was a company that gave us, of course, Pink Panther and Pink Panther's set of cartoons, including the Inspector, the Ant, and the Aardvark, and all that. You know. Creating a storyboard on sheet music ensured that each measure had animated movement assigned to it, giving Frayling's cartoons a lyrical feeling because the animation flowed with each note of the song. The approach gave each cartoon a feeling on smoothness and delighted audiences um, as the images on screen closely matched the movement of the music. Jones felt that Frayling's musical style showed that animation wasn't just about being good at drawing, but about understanding the role of time in storytelling. Quote, animation, as Fritz Frayling directs, it demonstrates the peculiar and little understood anatomy of motion pictures in general. Shooting motion pictures, including animation, and performing music music are very similar. Successes are very similar indeed. One in impinging, one impinging a successive series of varied sounds on the ear, the other impinging a successive series of varied sights on the eyes. There's no coincidence, then it is just plain good sense that Fritz Frayling set down the timing of his films on musical bar sheets. Other cartoonists followed Frayling's example of timing their cartoons to music, like Chuck Jones and Bill Hanna, who also came from a musical background. Some of Fritz Frayling's best musical cartoons include Rhapsody in Rivets, Holiday for Shoestrings, Lights Fantastic, Pigs in a Polka, Rhapsody Rabbit, and Mount Mazurka. Watch Bugs Bunny and Friends on MeTV Tunes weekdays at 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central, 6 a.m. Pacific, and 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific. Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific, and Sundays 12 noon Eastern, 11 Central, 9 a.m. Pacific. Alrighty then, so there we go with that one. I'm going to need to step away from the computer for a quick moment. I'll be right back, but as I said before, I'll put some music on, and I'll be right back as soon as I get the music on. All right, sure, but anyways, so now, what we're gonna do is, of course, we're gonna move on to the wrestling wrap up. There is some news coming out of the WWE right now, and of course, they're being accused of counter programming AEW. Let me see. So over the next couple of months here, of course, so they already have some shows leading to the setup for the 31st basically with the run up to the setup for Clash in Paris coming up at the end of the month on the 31st here. But the week prior to that, on the 24th, they actually have two shows, one in England and the one in England is, of course, opposing the AEW All Elite Wrestling Forbidden Door, which this year will be in England this year. But WWE already has a show set up there, The Road to Clash in Paris, as over the week leading up to Clash in Paris. They're going, WWE is doing some prep shows there. And also, it's been further, leading up to this, the end of this month's, Clash in Paris pay-per-view. Now, also that weekend, the 24th, they're going to have a heat wave event in Lowell, Massachusetts. And I don't know if that's going to be a PLE or not, but and then after that, there's already been some talk that they're planning a PLE on September the 20th, which will be the same day as AEW's All In. The theory right now is that even though they haven't named that PLE yet, it's believed that it will probably be Bad Blood. So in other WWE news, of course, it's been further confirmed that Karrion Kross and Scarlett Bordeaux have indeed left the company. So their contracts were not renewed. So, but anyways, with that, let's take a look back to last night's Monday Night Raw. Get you guys caught up on what happened on last night. The opening match saw WWE Intercontinental Champion Dominic Mysterio and El Grande Americano team up to defeat AJ Styles and Dragon Lee in a one-on-one match with Dominic putting a little plate in a mask he was wearing, giving AJ Styles a headbutt, and then El Grande Americano getting the pin there. Sami Zayn defeated Rusev via DQ when the MFTs from SmackDown, Solo Sikoa and his faction, came and attacked him during his match with Rusev, as Sami Zayn was being attacked on the one side of the ring. Sheamus came out and went after Rusev. Sheamus had earlier stated he'd stay out of the match, but once the match was over, all bets were off. And then what was considered the match of the night saw Roxanne Perez defeat former WWE World and WWE World Women's and WWE Women's Champion Io Sky with some inadvertent help from the Kabuki Warriors, as the Kabuki Warriors had tried to interfere in the match on behalf of Io Sky to, but it ended up, backfiring on them. Becky Lynch successfully defended the WWE Women's Intercontinental title against Maxine Dupree. And then the main event saw CM Punk and LA Knight defeat the Vision duo of Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed via DQ when Seth Rollins came in and started attacking CM Punk and LA Knight. And because of it, and then Jey Uso came out to try to help CM Punk and LA Knight fend off the Vision, which is the new faction name for Seth Rollins' faction, only for them to start getting into it with each other, particularly CM Punk and LA Knight. And because Rollins and the Vision decided to go back in and beat up on them even more, Adam Pearce came out to tell them that coming up at Clash in Paris on the 31st, Seth Rollins will be defending the WWE World Heavyweight Championship against Jey Uso and LA Knight and CM Punk in a fatal four-way, marking the third match signed already for Clash in Paris, having already been signed. Of course, Naomi's defending the WWE Women's World Title against Stephanie McMahon. Now, initially last night, Naomi was originally supposed to defend the WWE Women's title against Io Sky on last night's Raw, but was apparently not medically cleared. So that's why she was pulled from the show, apparently. And also signed for Clash in Paris, John Cena will be taking on Logan Paul. So now looking ahead, of course, to tonight's NXT. Looking ahead to tonight's NXT. And last night's Raw came from the Center Videotron in Quebec City, Quebec, Canada, with Michael Cole and Corey Graves on commentary on Netflix. So now, looking ahead to tonight's NXT. On tonight's NXT, of course, coming from the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, Florida, with Booker T, Corey Graves, and Vic Joseph on commentary. In an 8-man tag match, Dark State of Osiris Griffin, Cutter James, Dion Lennox, and Saquon Sugars will be taking on NXT champion Obafemi, TNA World Champion Trick Williams, Moose, and Javon Evans. Nia Jax, in a match that was set up last week, Nia Jax will be taking on Lash Legend in a battle of the two big girls. Fatal Influences, Fallon Henley and JC Jane, Jasmine Nix in their corner, will be taking on Kalani Jordan, Lola Vice. And then Charlie Dempsey with Ren Sinclair in his corner will be taking on TNA's Joe Hendry. So we got some TNA, again, we got some NXT TNA interaction going on tonight. You can look forward to. So now with that being said, now let's get ready to move on to, with today being, of course, Tuesday, August the 12th, 2025. Let's take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history. So let me just go remind myself of these things real quick here. 1965. 1950. 2010. All right, so first off, I'm going to head back 75 years ago. And on this date, 75 years ago, back in 1950, the Warner Brothers cartoon Hillbilly Hare premiered in theaters on this date back in 1950. Hillbilly Hare is a 1950 Warner Brothers Merry Melodies cartoon directed by Robert McKimson. Short was released on August 12th, 1950, and stars Bugs Bunny. Of course, that's where Bugs Bunny is interacting with the two hillbillies there. All right, so with that, can we move on to next piece of Nietzsche history? And as I'd also like to wish a happy 60th birthday to Mexican luchador legend Dr. Wagner Jr., born Juan Manuel Gonzalez Baron. Happy 60th birthday to Dr. Wagner Jr. Is a Mexican luchador who, so Juan Manuel Gonzalez Baron, the Mexican luchador who is best known under the name Dr. Wagner Jr. He has worked mainly in Mexico for Consejo Mundial de Lucha Libre (CMLL) and Asistencia Asesoría y Administración, or AAA, Mexico's two largest promotions, as well as working for several Japanese promotions, including New Japan Pro Wrestling. He has also appeared in World Championship Wrestling, Impact Wrestling. Gonzalez is the son of professional wrestler Dr. Wagner, brother of the late Silver King, and father of El Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. He was also formerly married to Rosie Moreno. Of course, he is a multiple-time AAA Mega Champion, three-time, also a two-time CMLL World Light Heavyweight Champion, a four-time CMLL World Tag Team Champion, four-time CMLL World Trios Champion. He's a former NWA World Light Heavyweight Champion. And he's also a former IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champion with Kendo Kashin. So happy 60th birthday to Dr. Wagner Jr. Let's see. Now moving on to the year 2010. 15 years ago today, on this date, 15 years ago today, Mugu, Studio Ranmaru, and WoW Worlds OVA or ONA original net animations Yoshikose Nobunaga-chan was released on this date back in 2010. So on this date in 2010, Mugu, Studio Ranmaru, and WoW Worlds original net animations Yoshikose Nobunaga-chan was released on this date back in 2010. And finally, on this date in the year 2015, 10 years ago today, this day 10 years ago today, back in 2015, the 25th issue of Dark Horse's Ape Sabian went on sale on newsstands on this date back in 2013. Sold for $350. Was 28 pages. Part 2 of the Shadow over Suwannee storyline took place. Written by Mike Mignola and Scott Stewart Ali. Penciled by Sebastian Fumara, with Max Fumara doing the inking, Tyler Crook doing the art, lettering done by Clem Robbins, David Stewart doing the coloring. So 10 years ago today, the 25th issue of Dark Horse's Ape Sabian premiered on this date back in 2015. So with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. We're back here with more Niche News tomorrow. And don't forget this Sunday, I'll be joined by the Metal from the Vomitorium, as we will be taking a look back at comics that went on sale in June of 1940. Continuing our trip down Comics History Lane. With that, I thank everybody for being here, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.